Hello and welcome to the Arc Woman podcast. This is an exploration of womankind. Here we discuss what it is to be a woman in the modern world while utilizing ancient and modern modalities in tandem to create a bounty of health for the body, mind and spirit. G'day everyone and welcome back to the pod. I thought I would record a podcast that I'm going to release a couple of days out from Christmas, just talking about the holiday period and just this time that I feel for a lot of us holistic, healthy people can be a little bit difficult. And I just wanted to talk about the chapter this is and a few practices that we can use to get through it. A few mindset shifts and information about how our body burns energy so we're not worried about gaining a ton of weight over a week, which isn't hugely possible. Also talking about like the presence of this time. Also nervous dysregulation, which can happen a lot. The holiday period can be really triggering time for a lot of people. You're sitting across the table from someone who might have voted against your rights, for example. That can be really, really tricky. How can we regulate ourselves and make sure we're staying in a positive experience during this time? That can be quite difficult. And just talking about some other tips and tricks that you can take along that are really easy to implement to kind of absorb some of the shock factor of eating a little bit differently than how you usually do, how you can exercise, how you can communicate. Basically, it's like a holiday special on how we can stay true to ourselves, but also let a little bit loose over this period of time. Let's start with food presence and the bigger picture. The holiday period is a chapter. It's a part of that 20%. So during the holidays, nourishment, it comes more from what's on your plate. So we really shouldn't be focusing on eating super, super, super healthy during this period of time. I don't think that's possible. This is a chapter of being fed by connection, community, laughter, hugs, and time with people you might not usually get to see. Your oxytocin might be high, your nervous system might soften, it might also heighten, and that all matters for health. And I think it's really important at the outset of this whole conversation just to say, please be present with this experience. Even if the food and the activities and the drinking isn't what you usually choose, this is a short period of time. And it has real emotional and relational value. You've traveled, you've planned, you've cooked, you've shown up. You've prepared for this time. Let yourself actually be in it and enjoy it. There is no point in putting in all of this effort for the holiday period to be with the people you love if you're going to be sitting down at the lunch table and thinking about calories the whole time. What's the fucking point? Like, eat the pavlova, have some cricket with your friends and family. I'm talking about like an Australian Christmas. I'm not sure what it's like for my international listeners. It's summer here in Australia, so we go to the beach and have fruit salads. So we're pretty different over here. I think already Australian Christmases are a little bit healthier, but I digress. Like, it's really important to stay present with the experience. You know what I mean? Even if it's not something you really want to do, if you're begrudgingly going back to your family's hometown because you haven't been back for 3 years, there is still benefit. There is a chapter to this period of time that you can definitely take out so much positivity. It might not be amazing food. No one's eating quinoa salad on Christmas, but that's okay because you eat that 80% of the time. And this chapter is about the people you're around and connecting with the people you love. And that is what's feeding you right now. Also, just another mindset shift, just accept that you're not going to be in routine. Routine disruption is not a health crisis. I used to really try and cling on to my routines over the holiday period. And now I just accept that I just can't be in my routine, and that's okay. And I just try and squeeze in things that I really love to do that regulate my nervous system and move my blood system and make me feel good in little increments. And I have little things that I do that absorb the shock of like some of the unhealthy foods I'm going to be eating over this period of time. Like, a few days away from your usual habits is not going to undo your health. People who live healthy, you will be routine oriented, and disruption can feel quite uncomfortable, but that's not dangerous. Like, a little bit of feeling uncomfortable over the holiday period, it's okay. Like, it will end. It's only a few days. You'll be okay. Eat the pavlova, be with your family, and let that experience feed you. And this kind of feeds into the other point I really wanted to make at the outset of this. Food has no morality. I think online I see a lot of people attaching morality to food. And of course, some food is healthier than others. I'm not going to argue on that. Red 40 cannot hold a candle against blueberries. Okay, I get it. But that doesn't mean that red 40 is bad. It doesn't mean that blueberries are good. It's just food. And we project a lot of our weirdness onto food. Morality is something we project onto food. And if you eat well most of the time, the holidays can sit comfortably within that 80-20 context, right? So if the holidays make up part of less structured, naughty 20%, that's still a really healthy, sustainable way to live. There's no need to panic. There's no need to compensate. You know what I mean? You don't need to try and make a healthier version of a dessert necessarily. You can just eat the dessert and maybe do a few of the other tips and trips we'll be talking about at the end of this podcast so you still feel really good. You know what I mean? You don't have to force health and routine into this period of time. You can just let it go for a little bit and come back to it. Something I think a lot of people are really worried about over this period of time is gaining weight and the anxiety around gaining weight, because they just think, the holiday periods are crazy. I'm going to be eating so differently. I'm going to gain all of this weight. Okay, so fat gain requires way more than a few meals, way more than a few days even. So gaining a meaningful amount of body fat requires sustained calorie surplus over time. A few indulgent meals is not going to equal long-term weight gain. And I think a lot of the PCOS girlies listening to this are like, yeah, right, whatever. But let's go through a few ways that I can teach you basically about how our body uses energy. So a lot of people, they think when I eat food, it either gets used as energy or stored as fat. And I think a lot of people go, it's just stored as fat. And I think if you have like insulin resistance and PCOS, that might be the case. But for a lot of people, it's not that simple. So I want you to imagine a pyramid. And right at the bottom of that pyramid is something called basal metabolic rate. So this is energy burned by basic bodily functions like breathing and circulation. I want you to think about the trillions of cells in your body, and you have trillions of cells, by the way, and also trillions of gut microbiota. They all need energy to function, and that's growing hair, that's making blood cells, that's repairing skin barriers. It's repairing the rods and cones in your eyes so you can see. It's doing so many different things. Energy is not just like burning it during exercise or storing it as fat. No way. Your body needs energy for every single enzymatic reaction in the body. BMR makes up the majority of how your body uses energy. The next one is NEAT, so non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So this is when we burn any type of energy by activities outside of eating. So sleeping and exercise, this is where this sits. And then we have EAT. So that's exercise activity thermogenesis. So that's third up. So exercise doesn't burn that many calories. So this whole idea of I'm going to go crazy for a week during holidays, then I'm going to go crazy at the gym the next week or during that, and I'm going to try and burn off all this energy. There's no point. There is no point trying to do that because exercise only burns a certain amount of calories. I think a lot of women have this toxic behavior of like binging or eating a certain food that they don't feel comfortable about, they feel guilty about, and then they go and run 10Ks. It doesn't work that way, basically. And then up the top, we have the thermic effect of foods. So the calories we burn by food digestion. So it's really important to understand that like BMR, like as is, takes up 70%. So your basal metabolic rate uses up 70% of what you eat. Non-exercise activity. So when you're eating and you're sleeping, for example, like all the things our body uses when we're kind of moving around but not actively exercising uses about 15. Exercise itself uses about 10. And we use about 5 to 10% of our energy to digest food. So that's kind of how we use our total energy expenditure. So I really want you to understand that if you are eating unhealthily over the holiday period and then you feel really guilty about that and you try and exercise it off, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way, and that's why it takes a long while to gain weight. You're not going to gain weight in a week. It doesn't work that way. This is a sneaky argument in here for that basal metabolic rate. When we have more muscle and we have more muscle tissue, we burn more calories at a baseline. So for any woman listening to this who's not lifting weights already, I feel like I say this in every single podcast. I'm becoming a bit of a broken record. But if you're worried over the holiday period, or if you're worried at all about being exposed to like quote unquote unhealthy food and gaining weight, then just start to lift weights. And then your muscles are a big mop for glycogen in your bloodstream. And so that's why I'm less worried now, because I've been lifting weights for a year and a half now. My muscle tone has gone up significantly. And I've even felt now that when I eat something that's really high in carbohydrate that I don't usually eat, I don't have that huge glucose spike anymore, because my muscles are like, great, we can store this as glycogen next time we exercise. So if you haven't started lifting weights, this is a good excuse to start doing that, right? Because then you feel better when you are exposed to foods you don't usually eat. Let's move on to stress and feeling a bit triggered and the psychology of eating. So the holidays are inherently triggering. And I wish there was a different word for triggering, because like people on the right really love to use the word triggered, but there's no other word for it. But family dynamics, political tensions are really high right now, no matter where you are in the world. In Australia, we've just had a shooting that is just terrible, and already there are racial divides coming up that I know are going to come up across the table at lunch with people, and everyone's going to have very differing opinions. If you're in America, you might be sitting across from someone who's voted against your rights. That's hard. Even an old environment, maybe you haven't been back to your hometown, returning home can activate a stress response that can be quite surprising. Even if you've done all this work, you've done all the somatic workouts, you've done like all the breath work, you've been taking a magnesium glycinate, you've done all of this stuff, you go home and it feels like it's completely undone. You're not alone. I feel like going into the experience knowing that there are going to be old things that are triggered is a lot healthier than just kind of being like an ostrich, digging your head in the sand and being like, nope, it's not going to happen. No, you are going to be triggered. There are going to be lots of things that make you feel quite uncomfortable in this period of time. And then the stress from being uncomfortable over the holidays can then really come out in food. I think subconsciously we either avoid or we binge or we become very controlling around our food. So just keep an eye out for that. Like over the holiday period, if you start thinking obsessively about food, or you switch off completely and you just eat beyond you feeling full, these are some things that could be a gentle signal to you that, oh, I'm actually feeling a little bit uncomfortable, and it can really come out in your food. I want you to understand this is not a willpower issue, it's a nervous system response. So when you see these things happening, it's just like, oh, I need to reconnect back in with how I feel. And it's really important for me to note here as well, nervous system regulation always comes before nutrition. If you're trying to eat perfectly while dysregulated, this is going to backfire. You are going to start binging. You are going to not feel hungry at all. You are going to feel very controlling around food, and it's going to negatively impact your holiday experience. And that might negatively impact the people you're around as well. And we want to be conscientious about how we're treating ourselves and how we're treating others in this period of time. So calm your nervous system first before you eat and before you go out into these social situations. This is going to reduce the chances of having reactive food behaviors. And this is also where I think a lot of people who previously had eating disorders or binge eating or like any type of kind of like weird behavior around food can really come out as well. So here are a few things that you can do to feel regulated around food. So number one is slow breathing. So box breathing is really beautiful. There are a lot of times during the day with your holiday period around family and friends that you can kind of go into a quiet room for about 5 or 10 minutes, maybe even go out to your car if there's no other place, go into the bathroom and just spend 5 minutes breathing in for 5 seconds, holding for 5 seconds, breathing out for 5 seconds, holding for 5 seconds. Maybe we'll do it together so you know what this feels like. So breathing in, 2, 3, 4, 5, holding, 3, 4, 5, breathing out, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we're going to be holding 2, 3, 4, 5, and then trying to do that for 5 minutes. Just breathing in, holding, breathing out, holding, breathing in, holding. And if you wanted to, you can lay a mantra over the top of it. I really love so hum. So hum, if you just want to breathe in and out. And just focusing on the feeling of your breath. So if you're breathing through your nose, actually, like if you can feel your nose and your nostrils and the air going in and out, can you notice the air you breathe in is cool and the air you breathe out of your nose is hot? Can you feel your mouth getting a little bit dry if you're breathing in and out of your mouth? Another thing that I will want to say as well and really press is stop mouth breathing over this period of time. Generally, always. I'm going to do a podcast on breathing. But breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth is going to activate your parasympathetic nervous system, and generally just trying to breathe through your nose. If you have any really stressful things come up over the holiday period, just doing a big sympathetic sigh, that really feels quite good as well. Another thing you can do is grounding through your senses. So feeling your feet on the floor, naming a few things you can see, pick a color and go, how many things in this room are yellow? What can you hear? What can you touch? What can you feel? Can you feel the weight of yourself sitting? Can you feel the weight on your feet? Another thing that you can do going on from grounding through the senses is progressive muscle release. So this is really great to do at the end of the day, is just doing some slow breathing, laying down on your back and gently tensing and releasing. So I love to start with my toes, and I will curl my feet in, and I will like really crunch my feet and create a lot of like energy and constriction in that area, and then I'll release it. And then I'll do the same in my calves and release it. And then you go your thighs, you really tense them up and you release it. You can do your abdominal area as well. You can do that with your pelvic floor. So basically the feeling that you use to hold in pee or release pee, that's activating your pelvic floor and your abdominals. That can be really great as well. Your arms and your hands as well, crunching them up, and then crunching up your face and pulling your shoulders up towards your head and then releasing it. You'll feel a lot better. Also shaking. So animals do this. We see dogs do this all the time. I have a puppy and it's really interesting to watch when he's down at the beach and interacting with other dogs. They will sometimes shake it off if they've had like a kind of intense experience. They're like, oh, that was, they're just getting to know each other. It's a bit touch and go. Maybe someone had a little bit of a nip. Maybe, someone's tail is between their legs, and they usually shake it off. And I think humans really benefit from this as well. We see deers after being chased by prey, they will shake their body, and it's like a nervous system reset. So if something happens during the day, so say you have an interaction with an uncle who voted against your rights, for example, and you had a really negative kind of nervous interaction with this person, excuse yourself, go to the toilet or the bathroom, lock the door and shake your body for about 1 minute to 2 minutes and literally shake off the experience. Another thing that you can do is like slow breathing or shaking it off just before you've eaten. Because if we are about to eat a meal that maybe isn't the healthiest and we feel nervous about it, we're going to constrict all of the blood vessels going towards our digestive tract, which means we're not going to be digesting that meal properly, which can put more stress on your excretory systems. So calming down your nervous system before you eat is very, very important. Another one you can do, just to wrap up that 5-minute somatic regulation tools section we had, was self-contact. So hand on the chest, hand on the belly, putting your nails through your hair and just touching, really getting your body centered and grounded into touch and feeling. Because when we feel nervous, we become out of body and we lose touch with how we're feeling. And I think grounding back into the body is a really beautiful experience that you can have. And that'll help you digest food a little bit better as well. So those are a few things that you can do if you're ever feeling quite heightened over the holiday period. Let's get to food. So as I've said multiple times, you're going to be exposed to foods that you don't usually eat, and that's okay. If you are wanting to, quote unquote, stay on track, whatever that means for you, maybe bring a meal if you can. Maybe reach out to the hostess and say, hey, I have a specific health condition. You can go into that however much you want. You can say, hey, I have PCOS and it means this, 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 and this. And I can't really eat the way you guys eat. So I'm going to bring some food. Or calling ahead and just saying, how can I help you cook? Or like, what do you have that I can eat? Just having like a nice open conversation. Very often people are going to be open and accepting. It isn't the 90s anymore. Most people are trying to eat healthily. Most people are taking supplements. Most people are on this train or know people who are. It's not a foreign experience anymore. So I wouldn't feel so nervous about this conversation. If you're calling home and talking to mum and being like, hey, this is what I'm thinking, they're probably going to be fine with it. And if they're not, that's their problem. And if they're not and they're not willing to accommodate, that's okay. You can bring your own food if you want to do that. If you can't bring your own food or you just don't want to, there are a few things that you can focus on. Very often protein is not a problem over Christmas and New Year's. There is a lot of protein and meat around. If you can choose more of a lean meat, that would be really great because we're eating high fat anyway in our desserts. So in your protein source, if you're eating meat, if you could just cut off that extra bit of fat because you know you're getting fat in other places as well, that's a really good place to start. Protein, I'm not really worried about over the holiday period. There's lots and lots of protein around. It's usually a protein-based time with turkeys and hams and seafood and whatever else is on the table. What I want you to focus on is fiber. Fiber is such an important thing to focus on. Number one, because fiber can decrease your insulin and glucose response by about 15 to 30%. So trying to get 25 to 30 grams of fiber in over that period is going to be great. So when you get to the table, opt for your vegetable sources first and make sure that fills up, I would say, like a quarter to half of your plate. And then filling up the other part of your plate with like a quarter of protein, and then the other part of your plate with carbohydrates. If you just go about it that way, you're going to be fine. So focusing on fiber. If you're looking at your table or you know how your family eats over Christmas and New Year's and you're thinking there's not going to be a lot of fiber, there's going to be maybe a potato salad. Okay, so what you can do is bring some chia seeds. This is what I do, chia seeds or flax or psyllium husk, whatever works for you and your body. And about 15 minutes before I eat, I put about a tablespoon of chia seeds in water, let that sit for a little bit, let it absorb the water, same with psyllium husk, and then you just down it. It's not the most amazing drink to have, but it is nice over the holiday period. If you can just commit to that and then go, everything else is going to be free for all, and trying to time your fiber intake just before kind of those big carbohydrate rich meals, you're going to be able to help your body process and slow down the absorption of that carbohydrate, and you can react to it in a better way, and you won't get these huge blood glucose spikes where it might spike cortisol as well and make you feel really sluggish afterwards. That's just a really simple tip that you can use that anyone can take with them. Chia seeds are dry, they fit in a luggage bag pretty easily, they're light, and that's something that you can bring to the table if there isn't lots of fiber rich sources there. Better yet, if you get to your family home and there's like no vegetables on the table and there's time for you to pop out to the shops and go and get some broccoli and steam it, that's also nice as well. Just doing little things that you can do. And if that's not possible, just have a little bit of a chia seed drink just before you eat and you'll be okay. Another one is don't start eating more if you're full. I think this is a really weird health and food behavior that people have, is just eating so much. And if that's you, go for it. Like if you want to eat that food because you enjoy it so much, that's great. But if you are feeling absolutely stuffed, don't keep eating. Don't let anyone pressure you into eating more than you need anyway. Your body is telling you to stop eating. That's enough information. And I think also eating slowly, having conversations with people over the table, eating like French people, they have 3-hour lunches and dinners. And they're eating small amounts of food and they're chatting and they're having good conversations and they're digesting things slowly. Chew your food slowly, actually taste the food. I think this is something that really happens a lot over the holiday period. We're feeling a little bit stressed and we're not chewing our food properly. Try and have at least 20 little bites and chewing of the food that's in your mouth, and really taste the food in your mouth. Enjoy the food in your mouth and then swallow. Don't just eat blindly and then feel super, super full and let other people pressure you into eating more. I think a lot of Australian people who have nonnas will understand this. It's just about eating and eating and eating and eating. I don't really feel like that's a super healthy food behavior to support even for a small period of time, especially if you have a past of binge eating or any type of eating disorder. Stop eating when you're full. Super simple, and chew your food slowly and have conversations as you're eating, and that's going to slow down the whole eating experience so you can actually enjoy the food and also just get the most out of the people around you as well. Another one is water. Drinking water throughout the day, drinking water between meals, that's also going to blunt that blood glucose and the insulin response that you experience over the holiday period as well. Super, super simple. If you're drinking, just have like 1 or 2 glasses of water between each drink, making sure that you're drinking as you're eating and just before you go to bed, and just trying to fit in a little bit of water. I know it sounds really, really silly, but I think this is something people forget about. during the holiday period because there's so many different beverages around. There's like juice, there's alcohol, there's coffee, there's tea. Just try and have a glass of water. I think a lot of people forget to just drink water in this period of time. So just focus on that. And if you can't do it any other time, just have a glass of water before and after you eat. And you'll stay hydrated and you'll feel a lot better, and you'll be able to digest that food more effectively as well. I've spoken about alcohol a few times and I just want to touch on it. I have a pretty clear-cut, honest perspective on this. I'm not going to people please. I'm not a fan of alcohol. It's a toxin. Sorry. It places stress on your liver. It increases the risk of multiple chronic diseases. Thousands of people die every single year from its overconsumption. I think cutting back on it in an already demanding time is protective. I maybe drink 2 glasses of alcohol a year, and this year I think I'm just going to aim for 0 because it's just, there's no benefit of it. I think it's one of the worst things that you can do for your health. And if you're traveling and already exposed to situations that make you feel out of body and nervous, and you're eating foods that you don't usually, and you're not feeling amazing, why would you add alcohol into the mix? The normalization of drinking alcohol, I just don't agree with. I'm really sorry. And I think a lot of health practitioners like, it's okay, it's a holiday period, have a drink, who cares? I'm really sorry. The data does not support that perspective whatsoever. I think another thing that I hear people say is like, just like have sparkling water with your tequila, and tequila has less calories. It doesn't matter. Alcohol is alcohol. Choosing not to drink is valid. There are a lot of people who don't drink. If you already don't drink and you're going into the holiday period and you wanted to hold fast onto one routine, hold on to that one. I think that one is the most important one. Like my family know I haven't been drinking very much at all for a very, very, very long time now. And they know that like I'm not drinking. It's just my partner doesn't drink. I don't drink. None of our friends really drink either. Like we're pretty lucky in Australia for a very alcohol focused culture. I think a lot of people just get obliterated. They get so inebriated, and they don't remember what people say, and then they feel horrible. They're not digesting food properly. And so like if you don't drink already and you're going to experience where you think people are going to be drinking a lot, Godspeed. It can be very, very difficult. That's another thing where you might need to just set boundaries before you have this experience. Maybe calling up those members of your family might pressure you or ask you why you're not drinking, and saying, hey, these are my reasons why I don't drink. I don't want you pressuring me to drink. I don't want any alcohol offered to me. Like you can do this before time and set your boundaries in text, over a phone call, and make it really absolutely clear to your family members that that's not something you want to do if you don't drink. If you do drink, please just keep it down to a minimum, like no more than 2 a day. Like I'm really sorry. It's just the truth. Like alcohol is not good for you. It's just, I need to do a whole podcast on alcohol and how toxic it is for you. I was listening to a toxicologist the other day on a podcast talking about if we found alcohol today, it would be classed as one of the most toxic things. And how we dose alcohol for how toxic it is for the body will be half a wine glass every single year. That's how negative it is for your health. So really sorry, not going to be a people-pleasing health practitioner on here and tell you that alcohol is fine and just choose low-calorie ones. No, it's not. There's no data to support that whatsoever. What you can do, alongside setting boundaries with people ahead of time and knowing that there are going to be some weird interactions, that's their problem, not yours. What are some alternatives? So water kefir, yum. Water kefir is so yummy. It's spritzy. It's full of probiotics. Coconut kefir is so good as well. Kombucha, I love kombucha. Sparkling water. You can also get like non-alcoholic ciders and alcohol-free spritz as well. So at night, maybe opt for some sparkling water with tart cherry juice and maybe some like fancy berry flavored magnesium powder. Maybe you can go for some coconut water or some coconut water kefir. That's going to be such an amazing drink to have as well, because you're exposed to more unhealthy foods, which are going to negatively impact your microbiome in the short term. So that's what you can do around alcohol. And I think it's also really important to note that because alcohol is so unhealthy for you, if you're in a family where people are drinking and drinking quite a lot, it might be a good thing for them to see someone who doesn't drink. And I'm speaking honestly about these experiences. I'm not saying if someone's opening up a beer to tell them that it's super poisonous and they shouldn't be drinking it. Not at all. I don't talk about the negative aspects of food as people are enjoying it. I think that's quite rude. I don't do that. But if they come to you afterwards and say, hey, I'm curious, or like, why aren't you drinking? You can talk to them honestly about it and say, hey, it increases the incidences of cancer and cardiovascular disease. It increases the risk of liver disease and liver cancers and kidney disease. It makes me feel horrible. It degenerates your gut. It causes Alzheimer's. We've proven causation with Alzheimer's, and we're on the way for other neurodegenerative diseases. Like, I don't want to expose myself to these things. And someone who hasn't been exposed to someone like you before might benefit from that. If you have children, they're absorbing absolutely everything that you do. And if you're a holistic girly and then you go to holidays and you give in to peer pressure, that tells your children, oh, it's okay to kind of like drink this poison, basically, over the holiday period because everyone else is pressuring you to do so. I think it's important to stay true to some aspects of you, and alcohol is a really good example. Let loose on the cake, on the pavlova, and like, don't worry about your protein goals over holidays, but it doesn't mean you have to drink if you don't usually do it. And also on top of that, if you're in a nervous experience, if you're exposed to like a hometown or people you feel uncomfortable around, alcohol is not going to fix that problem. It's actually going to make it worse. So yeah, that's my stance on alcohol. Unpopular, I know. I think a lot of you are shaking your head at me, but that's how I feel. I did speak a little bit about the microbiome just before. So yes, eating unhealthily and, eating in ways you don't usually, and maybe not moving as much as you usually do in a short period of time, not going to have a long-term impact on like weight gain, for example. Not going to have a long-term impact on muscle protein synthesis. No. It will, though, have a negative impact on your microbiome. So even brief periods of eating differently can shift your gut bacteria and influence your cravings and digestion. Also, high stress, high refined carbohydrate intake, it can all create an environment where opportunistic microbes can thrive. For example, Candida. It's a perfect example for Candida, actually, because you might be uncomfortable with who you're sitting across. You might be having conversations around politics that you just might have to bite your tongue, or you are speaking out openly about and you feel dysregulated. You might be eating foods that you don't usually. That's the perfect place for dysbiosis to take place. And then once we have dysbiosis, because we have opportunistic yeasts and bacteria that can overgrow in these situations, we can actually have our cravings being driven by that. And we've seen this study after study on the microbiome. If someone eats like high carbohydrate processed foods, which you are going to be exposed to over the holiday period, it can increase the rate of growth of opportunistic bacteria and yeast, Candida being one of them, and then they can impact what you are craving afterwards. So there are some negative impacts of like eating processed and high carbohydrate food in a short period of time on your gut microbiome. So this is why I think probiotic rich foods, like, so if you're swapping out alcohol for things like kombucha, water kefir, even if you brought like a jar of sauerkraut to have on the side of your meal, or even just take a probiotic. If you could take a probiotic with lactobacillus species, maybe Saccharomyces bordellari, and maybe some bifidobacterium, that would be great, because Saccharomyces bordellari is really protective and it's going to keep Candida, for example, in check. So that's something that you can do if you're going away for a week. Maybe just take a week's worth of probiotics with you and just add that to your routine, and maybe just like leave all your other supplements at home. Okay, let's get into the specifics. So I want to talk about PCOS, number one. So I think a lot of women with PCOS are like really, really worried about this period of time, especially if they have insulin resistance and they're worried about weight gain, and they're worried about kind of like losing their health that they've gained over months. And it takes a lot of time for women with PCOS to see change. So I understand a lot of women with PCOS, they feel a lot of stress around this period of time. So here are a few things that you can do that can definitely help. So number one, apple cider vinegar. If you have like a tablespoon in water about 15 minutes before you eat, that's going to reduce post-meal insulin spikes by about 15 to 30%. And we're going to layer that with fiber. So fiber is that first strategy. Really, if you don't have high fiber foods around you available to you, chia seeds, psyllium husk, or like flax in water, that's going to slow down glucose absorption, and that's going to support that metabolic stability. So that also decreases that insulin response by about 30%. So if you have like water with apple cider vinegar and some chia seeds about 15 minutes before you eat, you're going to blunt that carbohydrate response by about 60%, which is great. If you've already taken something like berberine, you can take it over this period of time. You can take 500 milligrams before larger meals. So you could take it you could do these three things, and you can have a huge meal that you don't usually have, and you can be pretty protected from the insulin response that you usually would have if you didn't have these practices in place. So berberine, though, you need to be careful. It can cause gastrointestinal discomfort. And so gastrointestinal discomfort caused by berberine, which you might have never taken before, plus lots of foods you don't usually eat, that might be like a GI IBS situation. So I wouldn't recommend berberine if you haven't taken it before. If you have it, you've taken it before, bring it with you. For estrogen dominance and endometriosis, this can be really tricky because you can be quite reactive to foods. And this is kind of one of those things where I think calling ahead and asking the host or hostess what's being made, talking to them about what endometriosis is and like what foods you're really not liking. For very often it's certain FODMAP fibers that you're not going to like. So it might just be a situation with endo or estrogen dominance where you're bringing your own food to the function and you're eating that plus whatever else you feel comfortable. And, that can feel a little bit awkward, but I think just opening up conversation around what estrogen dominance and endometriosis is and normalizing us talking about women's bodies and hormonal disorders, I think that's really, really important if you feel like doing that. Another thing is being really mindful around high copper foods. So things like oysters, chocolate, large amounts of kale and other cruciferous vegetables sometimes can be really, really, really high in copper. And we don't want to be eating a lot of copper, especially over this period of time when we're digesting other foods, because it's going to block estrogen digestion and that's going to make estrogen dominance or endometriosis worse. So that's something you can do. The other thing I said before about chia, flax, and psyllium husk, if you have endometriosis, you're probably thinking, fuck you, I'm not doing that. I'm going to have a bloated belly. That's fair enough. You can opt for something else. You can opt for something called partially hydrolyzed guar gum, also known as PHGG. You can get it from pretty much any health food shop. And you basically put a little bit in water. You don't taste it. It's very much like creatine, for example. And you can basically have that before you eat. And that's going to help you coat your stomach and calm down any of the fibers and foods you're going to be exposed to that maybe you don't feel comfortable eating and that you're like a little bit afraid of eating. Even if you have fruits and vegetables on the table that you know you can't eat, but you still want to eat fiber, partially hydrolyzed guar gum, keep that in your back pocket. That's going to help a lot for women with endometriosis and any type of estrogen dominant disorder. Really, that's going to help a lot. And just generally for people, if you can bring like lemon balm tea with you, that would be really beautiful and calming. Passion flower is also really, really great. You can also opt for things like omega-3s or omega-3 rich foods. If you're Australian, you're going to be exposed to a lot of omega-3 rich foods anyway, because we're seafaring people basically, and we're close to the ocean. It's summer here. We're eating lots of seafood. So that's really great. But if you were, say, in the Midwest in America and you're like, we're not eating seafood, but if you're exposed to foods that don't have a lot of omega-3s, maybe supplementing in omega-3 over that period of time as well. Coming back to feeling calm, reishi is really great, and magnesium threonate or glycinate. I feel like threonate is a little bit more expensive, especially if you're only using it for a short period of time, but glycinate can be really beautiful for calming down your central nervous system and aiding in digestion as well. So those are a few things that I think anyone would benefit from, basically. Going on from that, let's talk a little bit about movement, because I think this is a very easy one to fall off the bandwagon, and it's okay if it does. I was talking to my partner because we're traveling interstate for Christmas this year, and I was in my mind, I was like, I'm just going to bring my running shoes and I'm just going to go for a walk or a run every single day. And I usually go to the gym 5 to 6 days a week, and I'm usually walking around with my dog as well. So I'm a very, very active person, and I just know it's just not going to be like that over the Christmas and New Year period. It's just not what it is. So your routine exercise is going to drop away, and that's a mind shift that I use. I'm just like, that's okay. It's just a week. Doesn't always happen. But if your routine isn't accessible, I feel like you can still fit it in. It doesn't have to be intense. It doesn't have to be your usual routine. But if you wanted to, post and pre-meal walks, really powerful. If you're having a breakfast and a dinner and a lunch, if you just walk for 10 to 15 minutes before and after, you're walking for about an hour and a half. That's great. That's a beautiful way to regulate your blood sugar, regulate your nervous system. You're getting outside and you're getting like long wavelengths of light. You're exposed to vitamin D. You're getting fresh air. I think walking is really, really great, and just trying to fit it in before and after meals can be beautiful. If you are in winter and it's snowing outside and you're thinking, you're crazy, I'm not going outside to walk, that's fine. if you can just go into your room or a private place and maybe do a few squats, wall sits, do a few planks, do a few like abdominal workouts as well. If you can do calf raises, if you do a few jumping jacks for about 10 to 15 minutes, that's going to get your blood pumping, that's going to regulate your blood system and your nervous system as well. So you can do that. And even if you do like 3 10 minutes throughout the day, so after breakfast, lunch, and dinner, that's half an hour. And that's wonderful. I think that's really great. I will say as well, I feel pretty lucky with my partner. I'm so proud of him this year. He's really prioritized movement. And in my head, I was like, we're not going to exercise over this period of time. And he came to me last night and he was like, so my mum has got this gym membership, so we can go there. And there's also a pool and we're going to go paddleboarding with your parents anyway. So that's fine. And we can go down to the beach. And like the time difference between where we are in Australia and where we're going to be up at like 3 o'clock in the morning anyway. And so he was like, let's just wake up around 4:35 because that's going to be 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock for us anyway. And we'll just try and get some movement in and spend some time together. And I just feel so grateful. And I think that really speaks to if you have someone at home or you have someone that you're traveling with that's in the same mindset as you, if you can just try and squeeze in some time to spend some time with them, go to the gym, maybe go to the local pool. You're not going to be doing your routine thing, and that's okay. Just try and get some movement. I think a lot of people in America, just before you have your Christmas dinner, you'll go outside for a walk and have a joint with your friends. That's great. Just try and walk for 20 minutes and try and move your body a little bit and try and connect with the people that's there. You know, you might be surprised that that uncle you didn't really think you had much in common with loves going to the gym. And so if you can just like bring your running shoes and like one set of workout gear and just see what happens and just open it up into conversation, you might be surprised by people going, oh, you know what? I would actually love to do that with you. And it's a fun thing to do. If you can have a partner or a brother or sister, or cousin, mum, dad, uncle, whatever, friend that loves doing things actively, that can be great. And I think over the holiday period as well, if you're going home, it's really seductive to go, let's go to a winery, let's go to a brewery, let's go here. How about we get a matcha and go for a walk? Would you like to do that? Or like, would you like to go to this yoga class with me? There options to do things like that do exist. And there's lots of evidence coming out now that your brain waves actually sync up when you're exercising alongside someone else. So it can be a really beautiful experience that you can do with someone over that holiday period that makes you feel good and has you connect with that person on a deeper level as well. Okay, hopefully you enjoyed this podcast. Hopefully you feel a little bit more prepared for the holiday period. I wish you all the safety and happiness in the world. Thank you so much for supporting Aquaman over this past year. In this next year, I am aiming to post a podcast every single Tuesday. So we will have 52 podcasts being posted next year instead of, I think it was like 12 or 15 this year. It's been very haphazard. But next year, I'm going to be focusing a lot more of my energy on this podcast and getting interesting people on. So thank you so much for the support. And I just hope you have a really gorgeous connected time with your family and your friends. I know I am. I'm very looking forward to it. I wish you a beautiful morning, afternoon, and evening wherever you are in the world, and I'll see you on the next podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you loved it, all of my solo podcasts are uploaded in full to my Patreon. This is where you can dive deeper into my clinical insights, the how and why behind your symptoms, and the practical steps you can take to heal and move forward towards real health. Inside the Patreon, you will find hundreds of articles on things like fibroids, ovulation pain, cycle patterns, functional lab work, nutrition, and even recipes. You also get to vote on the articles and podcasts I create next and connect with the beautiful women in the community. If you'd like to join us, head over to patreon.com/arcwoman and sign up to the 1-tier system to get all of the goods. I hope you have a really beautiful morning, afternoon, or evening wherever you are in the world, and I'll see you in the next podcast.